All right, all bangers all the time. Bradley, coach here with you. Rookie sleepers and breakouts. Just fire it off. Field Yates has a 2-round mock draft. Very connected is Field Yates. A great exercise to do. We had Daniel Jeremiah last week. It's kind of fun to see where Jeremiah has paired, and then you have Field Yates pairing. It's a great exercise to do, and we want to be reflexive in all of this. Fernando Mendoza, really no controversy there. We talked up Bowers, Janty, the whole works. Hopefully, some other draft capital for a receiver or two on the way. The Browns, Carnell Tate, this matches with what Jeremiyah Love did. So we took that take last week. Look at our show last week and hear about what we have to say about Carnell Tate staying in Ohio to the Cleveland Browns. A lot of steam there. Now, Washington Commanders, Jeremiyah Love, halfback, your Notre Dame, Jeremiyah Love. A little bit of talk that the 4-5 isn't necessarily the firewall for Jeremiyah Love. He goes to the Washington Commanders. This would just be a buku spot. And look, it would push out Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. Sorry about it, Rashad White. It's going to happen to somebody. Somebody's going to get bumped. It could be Cam Scatabo, Tony Pollard, what have you, Tajay Spears. Jeremiyah Love to the Commanders. Bradley, how happy are you?
I mean, I don't see a pathway for him to make it past the Commanders in any of the mock drafts. The talent is uber there, and the Commanders have a need at running back. And they're one of those teams where if they get a solid wide receiver too behind Terry McLaurin later on in the draft, you're looking at Jeremiyah Love not just as a running back, but as an offensive weapon. And yes, we've seen teams be an elite running back away from competing. You think about the Philadelphia Eagles a couple of years ago, adding Saquon Barkley, yes, in free agency, but how often do you get to draft an elite talent running back and pair him with an already proven veteran quarterback in Jaden Daniels? So this is a smash pick. I think Washington is desperate for offensive playmakers. Like, who do they have at tight end? Who do they have behind Terry McLaurin at running back? There's a great need here, and Love can catch passes. He can run the ball effectively. I think the Commanders make this move because they can't afford not to.
And one sleeper that I want, Caleb Douglas, Texas Tech wide receiver, field stretcher, vertical threat. Late sleeper, I think, could be afforded for the Washington Commanders. You wouldn't have to pay up too much. Funny enough, though, reflexive, if Jeremiyah Love doesn't go to the Commanders and you don't get some big splash, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, 805 rushing yards last year. And to think and imagine Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt with a healthy Jaden Daniels might be a fair throw-in, or you don't have to outright go after Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. But we shall see what happens there, how the cookie crumbles based on who gets drafted. You're not just trying to dodge Jeremiyah Love. It could be Jadarian Price, Mike Washington, another host of different running backs. Here, the Kansas City Chiefs, Jordayn Tyson, who's been falling because he's been dealing with a hamstring injury, which I am concerned about. But here, if the Chiefs aren't concerned about, I'm not going to be concerned about it. I would put Jordayn Tyson up to the 1-3 happily, even the 1-4, anywhere in there. We're talking Lemon, Tate, Tyson, Casey Concepcion. You get teams like the Rams, get teams like the Chiefs. It would just be a vault up to that 1-3 spot behind Fernando Mendoza for me. Bradley, what do you think of Jordayn Tyson going to the Kansas City Chiefs?
This would feel very high for Tyson based on just the mock drafts I've seen of him and also the vibes that we've been getting lately that the hamstring is not quite ready yet. This would give Jameson Williams feel like, how the Detroit Lions a couple years ago drafted Jameson Williams very high. He was coming off the ACL injury in college. And that hampered him most of his rookie year. And yet sophomore year in the NFL, third year in the NFL, Jameson Williams, a top 45 fantasy asset. And I think that's kind of the pathway we could look at for Jordayn Tyson. You could see him hitting in the second half of the season, but I would be reticent to draft him in, SAT word, right? I would be reticent to draft him in redraft, even if he gets this high of draft capital but we would have more confidence. You're right, Jeremiah, in the dynasty streets if he gets top 10 draft capital, landing spot to the Chiefs, and the underrated piece is that Eric Bieniemy is back. And so you pair Mahomes, who has to be staying in the pocket, with a speedster and big playmaker like Jordayn Tyson, along with a Xavier Worthy to stretch the field, and you have Rashee Rice there. This is a dynasty play. This would not be necessarily a redraft play, though.
And you love for the Kansas City Chiefs the advantage that you can take there if you're not so hot or keen on Jordayn Tyson at a 1-3, at a 1-4, because he would invariably move up. You can trade that pick. You get the benefit of it's not just Jeremiyah Love that you're trying to sell for a haul at the 101 or a QB needy team at the 102. All of a sudden, the 103 would open up the floodgates. So if the Chiefs go receiver at 9, if it's Carnell Tate, Casey Concepcion, we shall see. There was another mock where Concepcion went to the Chiefs that I saw. I'm not so sure it was 9, though. I think it involved a trade, but you get the idea. The placement is what's important. Skipping on down past 13 and 14, we don't get any receivers to the Rams and the respective Ravens. The Buccaneers skip out on a tight end who they've been hotly tied to, but we do get the New York Jets, Makai Lemon. All I'll say is I'm warming up to the idea of Geno Smith being able to be in a high throw mode offense with Garrett Wilson, with Makai Lemon. Only problem is I think we get a little bit of a Spider-Man meme, and there's only so much room for these receptions. And I think last week you mentioned projections, 100 receptions out there for somebody like a Garrett Wilson. I'm not so sure there'd be enough pie to go around, some pizza pie in New York. Makai Lemon, though, to the Jets. Bradley, bullish, bearish.
Oh, I love this. This would be the perfect complement for Garrett Wilson. You got two guys who can just terrorize down the field, and the New York Jets are taking a step back, like Field Yates. You have to understand like who he is in the industry, and he is a former Patriots scout. He's a former Patriots employee, and so he's very well connected not only with the Patriots but also the AFC East. He knows guys, these trees are very strong. And so you have guys who know that if Makai Lemon is there at 16, the Jets will make a move, because this is a trade actually for the New York Jets to acquire Makai Lemon. So you can tell two things. One is that obviously if Lemon gets to this spot, the Jets would move up, and that the Jets would be very interested in addressing the wide receiver 2 position alongside Garrett Wilson, because you could see a scenario where not that Wilson gets pushed aside. I don't want to say that, but that you could see a very strong complement of Makai Lemon as like the 1B to a Garrett Wilson.
I love it. And just one slight note is this was the Sauce Gardner acquisition. So this is one of those picks that came along the way via trade, but this wouldn't be a simulation draft day trade. But like you say, Field Yates is dialed in, locked in. He understands these things. And I've seen, I believe it's Daniel Jeremiah, some other people who are keyed in, New York Jets, Makai Lemon Tate Tyson. Somebody's going to hit the Jets, and it's going to feel like Big Daddy, where you're very frustrated. But we have to think delayed, not denied, with our dynasty takes. Kenyon Sadiq goes to the Carolina Panthers, a tight end needy team. And look, Jatavion Sanders, it just has not worked out. You get another weapon for Bryce Young. Talking about Jalen Coker, Tedoroa McMillan ascending. Can Bryce Young feed everybody? In an exercise last week, Casey Concepcion went to the Panthers. Didn't hate it, didn't love it. I'm just curious if Bryce Young can handle all the volume and it be enough for somebody like Kenyon Sadiq. Bradley, where do you sit?
This would not move the needle for me for Sadiq. If anything, this is probably like a 30th percentile outcome. It's not the bottom. It's not the worst. Like, I think the worst outcome would probably be, you end up losing first round draft capital. I think that would be worst case scenario. But this is going to a team that I talked about it last week. The concerns with the Panthers are that Bryce Young may not be able to sustain multiple top fantasy contributors in the pass catching. It is encouraging that we've seen multiple drafts, multiple mocks where the Panthers are addressing the pass catcher, the pass catching position. Jatavion Sanders clearly, would be an afterthought here, but Sadiq put up massive athletic numbers. The question is, will that college production translate to fantasy tight end one production, especially in year one? And the landing spot with a Bryce Young and then buried behind a Tet McMillan in terms of target share, it would be hard to see a ceiling for Sadiq, especially in year one.
Hey, we're talking rookies. Let's hear from the Podfather on the rookie guide.
In Dynasty Leagues, you must get your rookie draft right. You cannot get it wrong. That's why we have the Player Profiler Rookie Guide in partnership with Campus to Canton. They follow these guys from their freshman year through to the NFL. We're breaking these players down, everything you need to know about them and everything you need to know about the picks in your rookie draft. Oh, I have the 102. What do I do? I have the 108. What do I do? It's a complete player and strategy guide. It's just $25 on playerprofiler.com. You get it. You have the peace of mind that I'm going to make the right decisions to build a super team.
A great work from the Player Profiler team and Campus to Canton. Go and get your rookie guide. Now, let's take a look. Omar Cooper, 23 to the Philadelphia Eagles. I think you have to envision the idea of an A.J. Brown being out, but until that happens, this would just jam up. It would be more good for somebody like Jalen Hurts, bullish for the Eagles offense, but I don't know how you get the target share that's already struggling for somebody like A.J. Brown for an Omar Cooper. But there's viability. 17 different teams at the Combine visited Omar Cooper. And here you have 23. You're starting to see safely Omar Cooper in round one in a lot of mocks. And I'm somebody who likes to spread out wide receivers who can go in the border of round one, round two for round one betting, because you can get 15 and 20 to 1 odds. And you can spread it. And if you hit just a couple, you can end up really hitting big. How do you feel, Bradley, about Omar Cooper?
Yeah, this Cooper landing spot would precipitate the A.J. Brown has to move. I don't envision the Philadelphia Eagles making that move unless they have a suitor set up for A.J. Brown. If the Eagles trade A.J. Brown before June 1st, they're on the hook for a much larger dead cap for this year. So there may not be there may be like handshake agreements that happen during the draft that we keep in mind. So it may be a temporary thing if the Eagles draft an Omar Cooper and keep an A.J. Brown. That may not be the long-term plan, though.
Well, we shall see. Talking about long-term plans, Bradley, the Cardinals make a trade with the Buffalo Bills where they end up with quarterback Ty Simpson. It is a slapdick operation out in Arizona as far as their team build, as far as their range in direction for quarterback. It's been really rough, and we're not talking about dogs. So Ty Simpson goes to Arizona. You got Jacoby Brissett, you got Kyler Murray on the way out, going out to Minnesota. Ty Simpson rumored to go to the Jets, so it's very interesting to see the viability of the Cardinals being the aggressor. I think we're going to get a lot of pressure and steam and hype for Ty Simpson to move up into round one. I'm not so sure you're going to be able to get away with round two, just having that luxury of getting your first and then Ty Simpson. I think enough teams, there'll be enough fires out there that pushes Ty Simpson, and we may see him go even higher in round one than 26 here. But what do you make of him for the Arizona Cardinals? Marvin Harrison Jr., this is like the Jets debate last week where we bridge from Geno to Ty Simpson, and now you're going to bridge from Brissett to Ty Simpson.
Someone is going to trade up for Ty Simpson in the back end of round one. The strategy as a franchise is to get that fifth-year option for a quarterback. Why would you target him in round two? There are enough quarterback needy teams to take a shot on and trading up for this type of quarterback. And Arizona is one of those teams. The Jets you mentioned, and the Cardinals, I think they want to try to get another answer at quarterback. We could very easily see Jacoby Brissett playing the first, let's say, 10 games, and then they want to see what they get in Ty Simpson. They want an audition rollout to determine whether the Cardinals need to draft a quarterback in 2027. They probably will. The worst case scenario is something like what the Cleveland Browns are doing this year, right? They have Shedeur Sanders and Deshaun Watson. But the good thing for the Cardinals is that they don't have to make that decision. They've already made the decision to move on from Kyler Murray, so he's not even on the roster. Yes, his contract is still there, right? But they're in a spot where they don't have to think about, oh, is Kyler the quarterback of the future or is someone else? Now they're left with, well, at least while we're making that decision, we don't feel the immediate pressure of Kyler Murray. So, yeah, I think that someone is going to trade up for Ty Simpson here.
I eerily get the feeling like the New York Giants, where they have Jackson Dart, and then you ended up with Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston, and then all of a sudden it's Ty Simpson. He's got Gardner Minshew and Jacoby Brissett. So we shall see what happens there. Bradley cut out for a moment. I'm just going to continue on. We get to pick 29 with the Chiefs. No skill position players. Oh, boom. We go to 30. Casey Concepcion goes to the Miami Dolphins, and it's a beautiful thing. You get this pick via the trade with the Denver Broncos. So this is almost like a like for like in a sense of Jalen Waddle and its placement for Casey Concepcion. Funny enough, I see some spitfire between the two of them. That's a little bit similar, and you're just restarting the clock if you're the Dolphins on a rebuild with a guy like Concepcion. And then you get further on the timeline in the championship window for Jalen Waddle. So I think this is a deal that works for both parties. I'm very high on Casey Concepcion, and I am just feeling vindicated, validated by so many bigger name accounts across the industry that I respect who are high on Concepcion as well. That big three tier, Tate, Lemon, Tyson, it's not as intimidating to the Coopers and the Concepcions and maybe Denzel Boston. There's some players who they can get into that back part of tier one, and it can not necessarily be a distinct tier two. So I love Concepcion going to the Dolphins. You can play in your own sandbox because there's nobody there. Malik Willis is going to have a field day. This would be a low-key bullish spot on a trash garbage offense. I love the move. What do you think, Bradley?
So I would love the landing spot for Casey Concepcion for the value that he brings for fantasy, because there is no one else. We could see a pathway to a 30% target share for Miami for him. There's no one else. But I'll take a step back. I know we didn't get to react to the Jalen Waddle trade overall. It's a disaster of a trade. I think that was a monumental mistake for the Miami Dolphins. The Waddle knows the organization. Waddle is not too old. You're paying Waddle to be the leader in the clubhouse. You're losing institutional knowledge. You're losing a playmaker and a leader, and you are depending upon the new staff to make the decisions on these rookies right off the bat. You know what you have in Jalen Waddle, and it's a proven producer. When you're already losing a Tyreek Hill, you're losing a Tua. Who's going to lead this team, especially in year one? I think that's a massive question, and it was overlooked by whoever decided to make that deal for Miami. I'm sure it went through a few different layers, but to get one of the last picks in the first round for a proven player where the upside is still magnificent. And how long are you planning to rebuild? Oh, he doesn't fit the timeline, Jalen Waddle. Are you kidding me? That it was very, very stupid. Like there are brain cells missing from people who are making decisions like that. It makes no sense. You want to be competitive right away, and but even if you trade a Waddle, even if you make a trade, you say, yes, I want to trade. You're not trading for a 30th overall pick. And maybe a mid day 2 pick, maybe a day 3 pick. The reality is, coach, like, they either shouldn't have traded Waddle or they didn't get enough at all. So I think it was a mistake by Miami.
I think if you get a receiver who's 27, 28 years old and you re-roll kind of like in Dynasty down to a player who's in his early 20s, this is kind of very akin to a move like that. And the question will be, to what you're saying, what direction are the Miami Dolphins going? Do they know what direction they're going in?
We've seen
And
this
that
play
could end up-
out.
Yeah. Yep.
Like,
I
think of when
think it's
DJ
going to-
Moore was traded to Chicago from Carolina. He was about the same age with same production profile, right? And now he thrived in Chicago. He crushed in Chicago with many more productive years.
I think what you ever hear the phrase, Bradley, it needs to get worse before it gets better. And while it may not make logical sense, it's the path that sometimes people go down or organizations go down. I think that's what you're seeing with the Miami Dolphins. It's going to have to get worse before it gets better. And plug your ears if you're a Dolphins fan, because you just went through 2 decades in the very recent past of the Patriots just crushing you and breaking your heart. And we're in the post-Tua era, and now you're having to just make it worse before it does get better. So it is tough. Pour some out. You talk about getting better, though. The defending AFC champions, New England Patriots, it didn't take them long to get back. While they got humbled, they go out after the Super Bowl loss. They get Denzel Boston, just a excellent target for Drake May. Anybody tied to Drake May is going to get bullish capital in the rookie mocks, rookie drafts. Omar Cooper was in a mock to the Patriots. I boosted him up. I think I took him 1.6 or 1.7. I had him very high, and I think you would get this same effect. I think you're going to start to see any bullish landing spot for Denzel Boston will be effective in that way. Bradley, Denzel Boston.
Yeah, this would be a nice little fun click here for New England, taking a shot, getting that 5th-year option possibility. Again, this is one of those things that we want to keep in mind as we're getting to the end of the first round, because teams will want to go up and get guys to make sure that they have that option. So getting another Denzel Boston, I haven't pulled up the projections. I can, but I'm looking at New England here based on how they're set up, and they only have 27 unprojected targets, so they would probably have to move out a couple of those like smaller wide receivers. You have to think that this would really eat into it, like a Kayshon Boutte, because you don't pay money to Romeo Doubs for him to not play on the outside. So if they go Boston, he's the Kayshon Boutte replacement.
Yeah, and I also think you can get a little bit of, okay, picture in the Super Bowl, you're lobbing the ball up and having the most success with Mac Hollins. And I think that is just something that's going to be glaring and stand out to the Patriots, which is why they signed Romeo Doubs, who is an absolute baller. And I think that you're envisioning the replacement of Denzel Boston when you're trying to make a comeback against another team. Who does Drake May have to lob it up? Let's go to round 2, and like the show, subscribe, share it with your friends. By all means, get the edge you need and help your friends get better. We go through the first 10 picks of round 2, and we're not seeing anybody for fantasy football. There's just a drop off. Oh, there we go. 46 overall, middle round 2. Eli Stowers, tight end, Vanderbilt. This is a very bullish spot in a tight end premium. You're already getting after post NFL Combine. Stowers in the back part of round 1. This would really push him, I would think, maybe 1.8 in a tight end premium, maybe even higher, because you're talking about maybe neck and neck with somebody like a Kenyon Sadiq in these drafts, because you're getting the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This would just be a nut landing spot. You're with Baker Mayfield, Sands, Mike Evans, a great, just absolute, like a Jordan Reed-like weapon is what I see in Eli Stowers, and that is fantasy football utility. Any team that drafts Stowers knows he's not a primary blocker, So I am reflexive in the fact that I can see Sadiq being a better blocker, thriving where he goes. Same to Stowers, because I'm trusting that the teams will have logic of, we're drafting this player for a reason. They can fit our scheme, but our scheme is going to be fit with that player's athleticism. So Stowers to Tampa Bay, sign me up. And that might not be high enough. It might flip he and Sadiq possibly.
Not possibly. I would have Stowers ahead of Sadiq
There it is.
confidently. And this is the landing spot. Yes. We're not
And that would
wishy-washy
do
here,
it.
coach.
That's good.
We're getting it. This is
Oh,
it.
so this is perfect.
This is
So
the
this is
landing
why we exercise. This is where we're getting the lactic acid on the bike, because Sadiq here firmly, right?
Yes.
Panthers, then Buccaneers. It's night and
Oh,
day, and the talent is close enough. Yeah, you flip them. I love that. And as much as we might have Sadiq above Stowers, you would have to be reflexive there. So this is fun. This is cool. We're cooking with gas right here. Let's continue on. We get past pick 50. Nobody. Oh, Brennan Thompson, Mississippi State. This is a Chev special, a Chev favorite. Pittsburgh Steelers.
Did you share this article with Chev yet?
Not yet, but Chev really loves Brennan Thompson, sees him as a sleeper. We did a show on FFD that'll drop. It's going to have Brennan Thompson goodness, propaganda in there. Chev will like to put him late round 2, and I don't think you'll have to go there. Probably in round 3 is where you'll get Brennan Thompson. But the beauty is he's a field stretcher, ex-vertical player. I think for fantasy football, week in, week out, you're not going to get him on your team. He's going to be more of a prop bet player, or a reverse line correlation type of player, where you go under 1.5 receptions, over 39.5 yards, and you hope he hits like a 45-yard touchdown on that one reception, and that's all he gets. Week to week, I don't think you're going to get volume, but he is just like a go stick. Like, take the baton, take it to the other hand. He's got the football. He's upright high running. From his hip down, he's gliding and striding. From hip up, he's just in that stride on the football field when he gets to the open field. Only problem is any kind of contact, it's like pinball. Brennan Thompson will just be pinging around. He'll be on the ground very quickly, but just a great compliment to not the boredom, but the blocking and the grit of physicality of DK Metcalf, Michael Pittman Jr., who, while they're strong, they can put up fancy highlight reels, they're very much grit players, and it's not always done easily. Brennan Thompson could be that field stretcher. So I like this pick for the Steelers. This would be very bullish for him, and it would significantly improve from being a sleeper to more common in that early round 3 in your rookie drafts. What do you think of the Steelers and Brennan Thompson?
Yeah, I think the landing spot would be nice. You remember that the Steelers let Calvin Austin go, and they let Scotty Miller go. So their downfield threats are both gone. I think that Field Yates, it may not be Thompson, but Field Yates is going to hit on, he's hitting on what he's hearing, which is identifying a need for the Steelers for a downfield threat. You mentioned, DK Metcalf and Michael Pittman. Pittman has moved around the formation, and maybe Pittman hangs out in the slot. And there are over 40 unprojected targets in this Steelers offense. So there's space for a day 2 wide receiver to have a little bit of impact in year 1. And, maybe an ascension for Roman Wilson is in store, but maybe it's not. And this would be an indication that maybe there's not as much confidence in Roman Wilson taking, what is this, year 3? A year 3.
Bradley, this reminds me of Podfather and Ashton Doolin. It's just not going to happen. You got to pack it up for Roman Wilson. It's just not going to happen. Here's an impression, though. Jeremy Bernard, I've seen mocked to the Steelers, is still on the board. So I'd like to just kind of hear what's inside Field, pick his brain on Field Yates, on Thompson over somebody like Jeremy Bernard, who is down here a little bit lower, I believe. We go down to pick 58. There he is with us, the 49ers. The 49ers take advantage of the stupidity of the Steelers in this instance. I love Bernard to the 49ers. I'm seeing Bernard go 2-1, 2-2, 2-3. He's really creeping up, and he may end up being a back round 1 player when it's all said and done.
Hmm.
And Surratt and Bernard, they're back-to-back. That combine was huge for Bernard. And then if you step back, high volume offense at Alabama, 19% target share, a lot that Jeremy Bernard can do. He's a player who was always lumped and mentioned in the top 10. Like, hey, yeah, he's really good. But after the NFL Combine, something really clicked, I think, for drafters where they're like, hold on a second. This guy's been sitting here on the PFF big board, mid-round 2, anywhere in round 2, outside shot at late round 1. But we're talking about a safe day 2, and this is round 2 draft capital for the longest time, is Jeremy Bernard. People are starting to realize and gravitate to this is going to be a sneaky pick to get, especially if you don't have early picks. You can pluck some early depth in this rookie draft class. Jeremy Bernard, 49ers, Bradley. Are we cooking with gas?
I think this is an indication less of the 49ers targeting Jeremy Bernard and more so Jeremy Bernard rising boards, because like the landing spot itself, the Niners, my projections have them at like -60 projected receptions, which means that somebody's got to go already. And so if they draft a wide receiver in round 2, that's still significant. So we'd be talking about like -100, something like that. They may have to trade a Ricky Pearsall, right? Or Christian Kirk might have to be a 0, like, because you already have Mike Evans, you have Christian McCaffrey, you have, and George Kittle may be ready by week 5, and so I've taken into account even like Kittle missing 5 games. And still that going into account. So I think it's more so speaking to how the market is reacting to Jeremy Bernard than maybe the Niners landing spot itself.
Well, I think it'd be very fair to have more reinforcements for the 49ers, because if you look at it and think about it, they're going to be, and maybe it's the substation, the electronic substation, where there's volatility in the hamstring for Mike Evans. Is it the Achilles for George Kittle? You have Brock Purdy, who missed a significant amount of time last year. Thank God there's Mac Jones. And maybe Mac Jones was born from that substation. That's where he regenerated and regained his career. And then, of course, the CMC. It's always a volatile cliff. And when it hits, it's almost like everybody is 32-year-old Devontae Adams, where if you're lining up and you're healthy, it's a baller's dream. It's a QB, tight end, receiver, running back, 1 week out there printing, but it's just not guaranteed week over week. Love reinforcement though of Jeremy Bernard. And then we get in these last couple picks,
Chris Bell.
Rams go with Chris Bell. I'm just a huge fan. Rams will make her dance, because Chris Bell to the Rams, this would be perfect. It would be the right amount of time for him to heal up from his injury and just slow walk a team who's going to go deep on a playoff run. You get paired with Puka Nacua. There's some stuff out there about Puka Nacua going on, some accusations. Not sure the verity of it all. But man, right around contract time, a lot of things pop up for players. It's just kind of odd timing sometimes to me. But Chris Bell, I've seen Malachi Fields mocked in round 2. Again, this is exercising here. A round 1 player prior to his injury, his ACL tear. And Chris Bell, an absolute steal for the Rams. And you talk about anybody with McVay and anybody tied to Matthew Stafford, those two gentlemen know what to do with good skill position players. So this is one of those lotteries. Again, you land with the Rams, phenomenal run out. Chris Bell, Rams. What do you make, Bradley?
Yeah, my concern is that this becomes a John Mechie situation where you get a decent enough landing spot, you get decent enough draft capital, but you're coming out of college and you've got that ACL tear. And we've seen time and again, if you tear your ACL and then go right into the NFL, the first year is a complete waste. Whether it's Jameson Williams, whether it's Jonathan Brooks, you name it, it's a waste. And Chris Bell, this is a 2027 play. Like, let's not be high on the hopium. Like, even if Chris Bell goes to the Rams, This is a dynasty pick only. He should not be drafted in redraft because Devontae Adams on the wrong side of the age apex. I think the Rams will get something done with Puka Nacua, but they'll be looking for who's going to be the wide receiver too behind Puka Nacua. And, you get a full year re-roll over the summer. Essentially, this is a 2027 pick. So that's how I would approach it.
You want to be reticent. Like you said earlier, you're going to be reticent in redraft. In Dynasty, you're going to want to scoop up like Pac-Man. Then the final pick, funny enough, it's kind of fitting. 32 overall, Jordayn Price was Daniel Jeremiah's 3.0. And then you have 64, Field Yates. And you sit there and say, well, wait a second, man, 64, 32, that's a huge difference. But then when you look at it as the Seattle Seahawks have 2 picks, they happen to have to wait. And their second pick is Jordayn Price. And then their first pick is somebody else in 32 overall. It's so funny where the choice could be this close for the Seahawks, where Price is 32 for them and they take him round 1 because they don't think he'll come back. But then the value in how they feel, 1 and 2, those picks could be much closer in value to the Seahawks proper. So even though we see a fall for Jordayn Price, this is still, it would be exactly come week 3. It'll be just the same bullish if he was round 1 or round 2 on the Seahawks, who just let Kenneth Walker go. So I would be very excited, over the moon, pants off. Same thing. Look, Emmett Johnson went in round 3 in another exercise to the Seahawks. And I'm putting him up into the early to latter part of round 1, that middle tier where it becomes 7 and 8 and goes into 9. That's where Emmett Johnson would jam up. Same thing for Jordayn Price, and that might be too low. So you're going to get any clump in lottery of Jonah Coleman, Jordayn Price, Mike Washington, Emmett Johnson, Katron Allen. You get them to the Seattle Seahawks, and it's just going to push them way up the board. Bradley, we were bullish last week with Daniel Jeremiah. Is there any pull down at 64, or are you on the liftoff there too?
This would actually make me feel better about the pick. As funny as it sounds, like it made me feel uncomfortable that someone was trying to force Jordayn Price into round 1 when he had been mocked as a day 2 guy the whole way, flipping between second round, third round. This was the Goldilocks pick in terms of where I anticipated he'd go. And then you get the primo landing spot, like that he's being mocked to the Seahawks. The only move the Seahawks have made this offseason in terms of the running back position is Emmanuel Wilson. And Emmanuel Wilson played very well for Green Bay. Let's give him credit. He's a solid running back. But Jordayn Price fits the mold of a Kenneth Walker. Like we talked about this last week, that he's essentially Kenneth Walker light, but he has amazing vision. That's why Notre Dame used him on special teams, and he had two special teams touchdowns, and one of them was like a 98 yarder. Like he actually, it was a 109 yarder. He caught it from the back of the end zone and just returned it the whole way. He has speed, he has vision, and the question, of course, coming out for Kenneth Walker was the pass catching. Same thing here. So, it didn't really stop Kenneth Walker and Jordayn Price. One more take is that this also speaks to, I think, the weakness of the class in terms of the running back position. Like this is probably more realistic of how things are going to go. You're probably only going to see 2 running backs in the first 2 rounds. And it wouldn't surprise me if Jordayn Price does fall to the early round 3. So you may only see Jeremiyah Love in the first 2 rounds. So this is, I think, more realistic of how, from the running back position, things may shake out for the rookies.
And then you get the scarcity of the running back position, which may give more credence to that continual push to 4 and 5 Titans and Giants, where Jeremiyah Love is there. And then look, even if it doesn't fit, I could see the Giants wanting to keep an honest, hold their cards, have a poker face, and then bait some type of a team to trade up and into for somebody like a Jeremiyah Love. So don't buy all the hype that the Giants are necessarily sold. Remember that this is also lying season, and the teams will tell the truth come draft day. But in the meantime,
Yes.
this exercise, it was a truth-telling exercise. What would happen if the Seahawks told the truth and go Jordayn Price round 2? We flip the cards, and that's just a little practice that we did today. So rookie sleepers, breakouts, like, subscribe, comment, share the show. It helps us all. Subscribe to this channel. We want to do more, record more. It means a lot. Give us 5-star reviews on the podcast. It goes so long for us. So thank you so much. We will see you next week.
Hey, I want to thank you for being part of this broadcast. If you have any thoughts on it, leave a comment. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave a like. And if you want to see more shows on the Player Profiler channel, subscribe to it. That's how we know you want more.